how far back does a NoFap relapse set you? In this video, we are going to look at a few examples of different kinds of relapses. But first, you should know that we are all different in terms of healing, and that there is not one single person on the whole planet who knows the exact answer to how far a NoFap relapse sets you back. So I'm just going to give you some rough guidelines.
Scandinavian Bob here, hi. Yeah, a real voice and person behind this video, who has been involved in the porn addiction community for 13 years now. So if you're getting tired of all these fake AI videos out there, consider subscribing.
Here are some examples for you. Scenario 1. John is a 26-year-old guy who has been fapping to porn 4 times a week for 10 years. He is addicted to porn and now he decides to go on a reboot. He starts on a Monday and he's able to go 10 days before relapsing. He feels he has been depriving himself, so he really binge watches porn for 8 hours with some on-off fapping included in the session. The result: setback, full 10 days. John is definitely back to zero. He is definitely back to zero as he didn't build up enough days to get some good healing going. And then that 8-hour binge really takes its toll on the brain. Would it have been just a small peak for just a few seconds, it would have been another thing. But 8 hours throws him right back to zero here, no doubt. Scenario 2. John manages to rise again, and this time he goes 13 days. But then he slips and edges to some Instagram models for about 3 minutes without busting a nut. He resets his counter and now he goes 27 days. Again he slips and peeks at some porn clips this time, but only for 3 minutes or so. But this time he does fap and bust a nut. Result: he is not back to zero. He was probably set back about 10 to 16 days or so. And we have to remember here where John came from in the first place. He came from a place of fapping to porn 4 times a week. Now he first went 13 days, and then he had a very mild relapse. And then he went a full 27 days, and then only a 3-minute relapse. This is progress. Although he had a couple of slips, he probably managed to build more than he tore down. And the busting there did little to nothing, since we are talking porn addiction here and not semen retention. And so if he continues like this, his reboot will be very long. But he may actually recover in the end, even with relapses that frequently, depending on what exactly he is trying to recover from. If it's severe PIED, then maybe not. But if we are just talking about desensitization, then yes, probably. Now, before I move on to scenario number 3, I would like to remind you to consider subscribing, because if you find this interesting, then you will for sure find my future videos interesting as well, as there will be a lot more content like this coming out real soon. So hit subscribe right now and then set the bell notification settings to all instead of customized. Scenario number 3. Dan is also addicted to porn. He has been fapping for 20 years, several times a week. He decides to start rebooting, and right from the start he is able to stay clean for 180 days. Hey, congrats Dan! But then one Saturday he is overwhelmed by loneliness and breaks. The result is a 3-hour-long fapping session to some very nasty porn he finds online. Result: setback about 12 to 18 days. Yeah, that relapse was pretty bad, with a binge lasting 3 hours. However, Dan had come very far and his brain had really healed well during his 180-day streak. So well, in fact, that he was able to take that relapse without too big of a setback. You see, you have to understand one thing here. The more brain health reserves you have, the less one single instance of relapse will affect you. And he was on day 180 doing very well with high brain reserves. Now, had Dan continued to binge the next few days, well, then he would have been set back way more. Luckily, he got right back up and continued after after his relapse. Scenario 4. Steve is also addicted to porn. He has been watching porn for about 8 years. When he starts rebooting, he is able to pull off streaks that looks like this. 23 days, relapse. 33 days, relapse. 14 days, relapse. 45 days, relapse. 63 days, relapse. 22 days, relapse. 11 days, relapse. 43 days, relapse. 55 days, relapse. 43 days, relapse. All his relapses are pretty short slips and never more than about 6 to 7 minutes long. Result: he is not back to zero. It becomes very difficult to try to estimate on quote-unquote what day in terms of healing he's on after this period of time with all those relapses. Mind you that the reward circuitry in the brain does not count days anyway, but he has definitely built more than he has teared down, and he had many decent streaks going on there, some of them over 50 days. And on top of this, his relapses were not super destructive either, as they were pretty short. No several hour binges or anything like that, because those, oh man, those will really set you back. But yeah, his net result is that he is definitely rebooting. I would go as far as to say that after all those streaks, and even though he just relapsed on day 43, he might actually be somewhere between day 25 and 45. Sounds strange? Not at all. Remember now, he has had 10 pretty decent streaks before the last one. And listen up here, because this is important. Just as long as you don't relapse too often and too badly, healing is actually cumulative, meaning it builds up over time. Again, depending on a bit what we are trying to heal from here, obviously. If it's severe PIED or the addiction-related brain changes in terms of sensitization, then we always need to understand that with those we definitely need as few relapses as possible. And as far as PIED goes, even if we get that healed, it can very easily come back with just a few relapses here and there. Severe PIED is always the condition that needs the most time to heal and thus the most strict reboot too, of course. Now, remember to take all the numbers we talked about today with a grain of salt, as your mileage may vary.
Alright, so if you haven't already, I highly recommend you grab my 90-day no porn advice and tool guide using the link below. Now, this is not an online course or anything big like that, but it's an easy to read PDF file, almost like in bullet point form, sharing what's common to experience in your first, second, third and fourth week and so on, along with some helpful tools and advice. So get that now so you can start leveling up in life. And oh hey guys, take a look at the video you can see on the screen right here if you want to know what the biggest factors are that determine how long your reboot is going to take. Just click on it right now and you'll see exactly what I mean. This is Scandinavian Bob signing out for today. Consider subscribing for more, and I'll see you in the next one.